What's up, everybody? I'm Matt Harmon. Welcome to another edition of the Reception Perception Mailbag. It's been a minute since we've done these, but I think it's a great time here heading into Thanksgiving week, right around that time of the season where we can do a little check-in. Got a lot of data from this year. The rookie report is up at receptionperception.com. The dynasty rankings have been getting updated a ton. So great time to do a little check-in with the Reception Perception Discord community. If you're not a part of the Discord, what are you doing? There should be a link in the description. You can join the Discord for free. If you're a subscriber to the site, there are different tiers in the Discord that you can get involved with. Some early sneak preview channels. It's a great time. These are some of the questions that we've gotten from our Discord community here for this week's mailbag. Let's waste no more time. Let's jump into it. First one comes in from Dan. Thoughts on what San Francisco is likely to do next year with pass catchers, with Debo underperforming, Ayuk returning from injury, Juwan Jennings breaking out right now, and Ricky Pearsall starting to flash a little bit. Does one of them get moved in the offseason? Thoughts for Dynasty if all four stay there? So great question, Dan. I've been thinking about this one a lot. Let's take this player by player. I doubt Debo's back in San Francisco. He's just not playing well this year, and I think he's always been a great player, but a limited player in terms of his application to the game plan. We're seeing that more and more become a problem now that he's not the same explosive mover after the catch. I doubt he's back. Again, salaries are going to become a squeeze at some point. I know they adjusted his contract, but to me, he would be most likely to move on. Brandon Ayuk, I don't really care about the start to the season this year, coming back a little slow from not participating in training camp right as he's kind of getting ramped up. He gets injured. But the problem is, I hate to say this as an Ayuk guy, the problem is I think this multi-ligament knee injury is going to linger into 2025. That's just the reality of the situation. That sucks because this should be the prime of his career on this new contract extension. And if you're familiar with RP, you know that Ayuk was playing at like a fringe elite level in 2023, legitimately earned that money. Obviously, I just wish things had played out differently in the offseason, and of course would have played out differently with the injury. But I do think that injury is going to linger into this year. That brings us to Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. Pearsall is in the RP rookie report. I wrote this a lot. I just don't want to judge him too much on what he does this year because, especially early on, dude, the guy was shot. The guy was shot with a gun. A bullet went through his body in August. Also, he didn't even have a clean offseason before that. Remember, he was dealing with injuries in the offseason that took away some practice time. You lose practice time in the offseason as a rookie, you're just kind of banged anyways, not to mention then you get shot, a whole thing there. I think Pearsall has been fine so far. He looks pretty decent on outbreaking routes to me in the RP rookie report. I can see the vision for what they wanted from him. I think they want to be a more drop back pass game that gets a lot of guys out into the route and lets Purdy kind of pick and shoot, pick his spots there, distribute the football like a point guard. Ayuk fits into that when he's healthy. Juwan Jennings, I think, fits into that when he's healthy. Juwan Jennings, I don't care about all these per route stats that he's shining in right now. Very, very good player. He's just not as good of an X receiver as Brandon Ayuk. Very good player. Can maybe be like a power slot flanker for you. I think that would be the ideal role for him going on. So a lot of strings to pull out there, but I'm a fan of all three of these guys, Ayuk, Jennings, and Pearsall, and I think they would be a nice little trio there next year if Ayuk can get healthy sooner than later. Next question comes in from Shark. If you were Dave Canales, how would you like to evolve your usage of Xavier Legette over the next couple of seasons? Yeah, I mean, I love this. If I was Dave Canales, an NFL head coach, so I'm just some goofball in his home office here charting routes. Xavier Legette, I'll pull up his RP data from the in-season rookie report just to kind of give an example of how I think he should be used. You know, Legette in the rookie report, I actually really liked the early season usage. Off the line of scrimmage on 61.8%, lined up outside on 64.3%, in the slot for 24.2%, backfield for 11.6% of sampled snaps. Loved that. Often in motion, mostly a flanker, avoided a lot of press coverage, only 7.8% of his sampled routes in the rookie report. And you see the route chart here, post routes, corner routes, out routes, slant routes, a lot of these in-breakers. That's the type of usage I want to see from Xavier Legette. What does have me a little, I'm like raising my eyebrows, is that they used him more at X receiver this past game coming off the bye against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm mixed on that. I don't want to see him as a full-time X. I actually really like the early season usage and getting him ramped up there, but we'll see. To me, I think he profiles ideally as a flanker type that you move around the formation and you hit on some of these slants, the posts, and some of the horizontal breaking routes too, like a corner and an out route. So I like that usage for him. I'd like to see more of that. If that was Dave Canales, if I was Dave Canales, that's how I'd use him. I like Coker alternating between flanker and power slot. His RP rookie report data is pretty interesting. I'd like to get a vertical X receiver that can beat press man coverage consistently in the offseason. And then I think you got the makings of a nice trio with Sanders at tight end. I think he can also play as well. Next question here. Queasy. Out of the rookies who haven't been charted yet, who do you hold the most faith in? To remind you all who is in the RP rookie report, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd, Keon Coleman, Roma Dunze, Malik Neighbors, Xavier Legette, Xavier Worthy, Jalen Coker, Adonai Mitchell, Jalen Polk, Ricky Pearsall, Devon Vele, and Luke McCaffrey. Those guys are in the report right now. In terms of who's not there that I have a lot of faith in, I will still hold out hope for Jermaine Burton getting it together. I mean, come on, bro. Lock in. The talent is there. I know it's fruitless because this is who he's always been. Like, we can't be surprised that he's, had issues with the team and things like that. But he's the guy I'd hold the most hope for. To me, the other rookies, I'm just not that excited about. Jordan Whittington's at least interesting as a depth receiver. But to me, Jermaine Burton's the guy that I probably still have ranked highest in Dynasty because the talent is there. But the reality of the situation is just, if he never works out in the NFL, we know exactly why, and we can't be too surprised by it. But he would be the guy I'd hold out the most hope in. And he can get it together, and maybe it's starting for this team next year with T. Higgins most likely moving on. Next one comes in from Mohammed. How do you compare Ladd McConkey to somebody like Jaden Reed, Zay Flowers, or even Josh Downs? Ooh, man, Mohammed, great question, because I love all four of these wideouts. I think all three of them, maybe Zay Flowers the least of all, but I think all three of them should be slot mostly players, but are not slot only players. I think the best guy to me right now, the best player of them is probably Josh Downs, who is, I think, the best receiver on the Colts roster. He's been probably their most consistent player game to game on offense this year. High end separator at all three levels, can beat man coverage, can beat zone coverage, can do it all. I think he's probably the best player of these four right now. And then Jaden Reed and Zay Flowers are pretty close, but I would say Ladd McConkey is second. I think all of these guys, the great part about all of these guys, and again, Flowers is a little bit of a different bucket, so I almost don't want to group him in here, but I think Ladd, Reed, and Downs are interesting comparables. And they're all three guys who are the type of slot receivers that I like. Can beat zone, but are weapons against man coverage and can do something with the ball in their hands. These are the type of wideouts I really want to be invested in. Obviously, target competition is problematic for Reed especially, and even Downs a little bit too. But these are the type of guys I'm very interested in. Downfield route runners who could beat man, but are still strong against zone, which you need to be if you're a slot receiver. I would say right now, if I had to rank them, rest of their careers, I'll go Downs, Ladd, Reed in terms of who I like the most right now. Next one, let's stick on Jaden Reed here in the Packers. Jamie asks, what do you do with the Green Bay wide receiver room? Who is most likely, if any, to become the guy between Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Dontavian Wicks? All right. Well, I don't think any of them are likely to become the guy because all of them are good to some degree. Not to mention, what I think we have to realize when we talk about this Packers room, we got to come to grips with two things. Well, three things, really. One is that it's a crowded room. None of these guys deserves to just completely get removed from the equation. I mean, Christian Watson, at times, his role was limited. Then they started putting him back out there. Then he has this crushing drop against the 49ers, but he's still not a guy you want to completely take out because his big play ability is a really big difference maker on those downfield routes. Romeo Doubs, the fantasy community shit all over Romeo Doubs because of like his targets per route run, but I've been saying for like a year, this guy has a valuable role on this team. And I think his film this year has been better than any other season. I really like the way Doubs plays on these ISO routes, especially on third down. His slant routes and in-breaking routes particularly are much better than what we saw in his rookie year. So the fantasy community in particular needs to get off Romeo Doubs' back. He's a good player that should continue to be a part of the rotation and might be the most consistent player for the time being. Dontavian Wicks, I like Dontavian Wicks' rookie year film. He's quite literally dropped his opportunities this year. But he's not a guy they want to give up on, not a guy they should give up on. Hopefully he can work through that and they can continue to get the best out of him. He's blocking really well this year. The separation is still there. Just got to catch a football, brother. That's the long and short of it. And then we've got Jayden Reed here. Jayden Reed, this is the thing that I think we got to come to grips with, is that as much as I like Reed, look back at his rookie year RP profile. A lot of really good stuff here. There's specific routes that he's devastating on. Look at the dig route, the corner route, and the post route percentage. He ran those all at pretty reasonably high volume relative to the NFL average. Those are the routes that at the beginning of the season, they were stinging teams down the field on. But he's not necessarily at the level of a guy, 71st percentile success rate versus man, 77th against zone, that profiles as we funnel the whole offense through him. Profiles as, I think, the best Packers receiver. He's the most talented. He's the most dangerous after the catch. He's the best separator at all three levels. But he's not a guy that looks like a true number one receiver just yet. Can he get there? Maybe, but he's not there yet. I think I got a little over my skis seeing some of the results for Reed earlier this year, but because the rest of the room is crowded, Tucker Kraft is good. Like they're going to spread the ball around. The other thing that we got to realize, the third thing that we got to come to grips with is this is a run heavy team. Okay. And Josh Jacobs has been kicking ass all year. He's got a 56% success rate on gap scheme runs this year, which is exactly why they got him. They wanted to get him so they could unlock some more gap scheme runs, and he's delivering on those. This team is dead last in neutral pass rate since they came back from their bye. I love all these guys. I think they could be good. Well, I'm a little iffy on Christian Watson, but I'm a big fan of Doubs, big fan of Wicks' game. I think he can develop, and Reed is a really great player, but I mean, from a fantasy perspective, you can't trust any of these guys on a week-to-week basis, but the offense is good. They're good. Who cares about fantasy football? I like seeing the way all these guys are deployed. Just don't try to obsess over the week-to-week production here. I know it's tough to ask, but that's what you got to do. Next one comes in from M Ladderman 11. How do you think AD Mitchell looks on tape, and what do you believe? Is his ceiling? Great question. I think Mitchell, I think he does pop for some other separation metrics, and in reception perception, pretty good results. Nothing perfect. I like that they've gotten him more as an X receiver. I think that's his best deployment. In the rookie report, 71.4% success rate versus man, but 72% success rate versus zone. That's not good enough. He's got to be more consistent against zone coverage, but his press success rate, he had one of the best press success rates in the class from a in-season rookie report standpoint. He is great working off the line of scrimmage. That's where I want to see more of him. Again, an X receiver on some in-breaking routes, slant routes, dig routes. That's where he can be really devastating. And that slant route percentage, 86.7% success rate. Low volume, I want to see more of that. Less vertical X receiver stuff and more short area. That's where I think he could be very, very useful to the Indianapolis Colts. What's his ceiling? I think he could be. He has the traits to develop into a number one, but I haven't seen enough on film yet to say he can be a number one receiver. So definitely I can see a path to him being a very, very good number two receiver to Josh Downs. And they already have a great player, Michael Pittman, too. So he's got to be, I don't even know if he's ever going to be better than Michael Pittman, but that's kind of how I feel about AD Mitchell. I've liked what I've seen, but we've got some work to do against zone coverage, particularly. NJ wins _12 says, who are some buy low targets for contending rosters? Obviously, I don't know. It depends on your league, of course. That's the main caveat here. I will say, some buy lows is always difficult. Just depends. Veterans that I think are still playing well in their roles. I mean, Cooper Kupp is still playing well. If you're a contender, I would try to get something for Cooper Kupp, or get Cooper Kupp for something. Just try to pluck him on the end of your roster if you're trying to win this year. Terry McLaurin still playing great football. He's somebody I'd want to buy. Again, are you buying low on either of those guys? I'm not sure. I would just see what's going. We'll talk about Diontae Johnson later on. He's somebody that you will not use again the rest of the year. Period. But I might try to trade for him now if you're contending in the next 2 years and see where his landing spot turns in next year. That's definitely someone. And lastly, Mike Evans. Mike Evans is still a very good buy. He's playing good football this year. He played his best football, I think, last season. And he could have a strong end of the season with with Baker Mayfield and Liam Cohen in this offense looking really good. In terms of other true buy low targets, mentioned Romeo Doubs. I don't think Romeo Doubs is going to cost you very much in Dynasty. And I'm not sure he's going to be, a consistent starter rest of the season, but I think he could have some wide receiver 3 weeks. And again, somebody that you might be able to buy on the low if you're a contender. Next one comes in from Flair Spion. Has Demario Douglas shown some long-term viability beyond that of a holdover for Drake May until the Patriots get a true number 1? I think he's long-term viable as like a wide receiver 3. Somebody you can start in the slot and not be embarrassed by it, but does he look like a true starter to me? I'm not 100% there yet. I would be shooting much higher if I was the Patriots, honestly. I would want to see what T. Higgins wants. I'd want to see what the true number 1 type of prospects are in the class. I don't know that yet. Don't know a damn thing about prospects at this point, but that's what I'd be looking at. I would love Demario Douglas as my number 3 receiver, but in terms of long-term viability, that's about as much as I see from him. Can be part of the rotation, but not necessarily someone that I'm like truly relying on. Next one comes in from our buddy Josh Scott. He's done some great work, data work on the site for us at Reception Perception. Would you rather hold Rashad Bateman or Romeo Doubs in Dynasty? And I mean, oh my God, this one just cuts to the core, bro. This is tough. I believe I have these guys in the same tier in Dynasty. I have Romeo Doubs a little bit higher. Look, you guys know I love Rashad Bateman, and I have been loving what I've seen out of him this year. But like just the fact that he's a contributing player on a good NFL offense is enough for me. He'll never be the prospect that I wanted because of the injuries that have just derailed his career. But man, love to see him contributing. I do think there's a chance that if something happens in the Green Bay receiver room and somebody moves on, Doubs can continue to ascend. I think I love what I got right now out of Bateman, and I'm good enough on that. I think I'd rather have Doubs in Dynasty. Next one comes in from Lord_Snappy_Pants. Diontae Johnson seems to have pulled a disappearing act after getting traded to Baltimore. Is he on the decline, or does he simply need a change of scenery? I think one of the worst moves that anybody made this season was Diontae Johnson complaining his way out of Carolina and getting traded to a spot in Baltimore where they just don't need him. They're literally using him as depth. And people reported this when this happened, that he was going to be just a depth piece for them. And why wouldn't he? Zay Flowers is having a nice breakout second season. Rashad Bateman is good. The haters and losers don't want to admit it, but Rashad Bateman is good at football, and they don't need a ton of impact from the wide receiver position because they have Derrick Henry. They don't throw the ball all over the yard. So Deontay's a backup in Baltimore. Bit of a bag fumble there by Diontae Johnson. I don't know if this is going to affect him in free agency. I also think that people clearly don't want to deal with him in the room. So no. In terms of a decline, no. He was playing well this year in Carolina, really well. And Andy Dalton was giving him the football, and he was giving him chances, and we saw it. He was awesome in Carolina, but it was clear he didn't want to be there. The team was losing. Well, hopefully he gets to have a Super Bowl in Baltimore, and that's what he wants. But I do wonder what happens to him in free agency now. I'd like to see him get another starting job. I think he can still start in the league for sure. Next one comes in from Lightning_Panda814. What are some lessons learned this year that you'll apply towards next season? 2 things. Injury optimism is bad, and they can lie to you in the offseason. The Rams can lie to you about Puka Nakua's injury. The 49ers can lie to you about Christian McCaffrey's injury. All they want. Doesn't matter in the offseason. They can do it. They will do it. We should expect it. So that's that. The second thing is that patience is required. Patience is required for new things. New players on new teams, coaching staffs need time to figure out, new coaching staffs need time to figure out guys on the roster. Look at Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is a great example. In the beginning of the season, I don't think the Seahawks quite knew what to do with JSN. Then DK Metcalf gets hurt, and all of a sudden, they got to find out a way to unlock JSN. And I truly believe that Ryan Grubb and Mike McDonald and those guys looked at their offense without DK Metcalf as a downfield player and thought, shit, our quarterback loves to drop back and push the ball down the field. We don't have DK now. How can we activate JSN in this area? And we've seen him get a change in role. We've seen him not only run more routes in the intermediate area of the field where his prospect profile in reception perception showed he could run. We've also seen, like, now DK is running routes to clear out space for JSN underneath. We're actually intentionally designing usage for JSN. And I think a lot of that was this is a new coaching staff with a player they're unfamiliar with. Once they saw him on the NFL field and saw a little more of what he could do, like that took some time to get there. So patience really does need to be applied to some of these situations. And I don't know if that's going to change the way I rank things or the way I view things, because honestly, I think we just get caught up in these micro, small sample sizes and freak out about these things. Like, I thought he was fine to begin the year on film, and now the production is there. So patience really, to me, is just the thing that needs to be applied going forward. Beyond that, I mean, we could do a whole video on lessons learned and things like that. But the reality is, to me, patience is the biggest thing. Let's get to two more non-football questions here to wrap it up. This first one comes in from IMJ Seth. What's your adult beverage of choice, Matt? I'll be honest with you guys right now. Safe space. Me and you. Safe space on this one. Any number of years ago, I would have said beer. It's always beer. Number one, I just drink less than I used to. Feel better, focused on my sleep, focused on my health, my diet, my exercise. All those things are better when you're not drinking too much. That's number one. Number two, if I am drinking, maybe if I'm like out with buddies, I'm still going to drink a beer, stuff like that. Maybe a cocktail, whatever. I'm too old to be taking shots, bro. That's that. It better be a real special occasion if we're taking shots. In terms of adult beverage of choice, though, it's definitely wine for me. I'll say that. Safe space. Rosé, white wine, red wine, don't care. I'm a big fan. So yeah, to me, I just find it the most relaxing. I find it the most enjoyable to drink. If we're doing like a dish with it, like we're eating, and I love to eat, get like a cheat meal, good glass of wine. Give me a break. Yeah, to me, adult beverage of choice right now is definitely wine. But it depends on the scenario. Let's be honest with that. Like, right, if I'm at the beach, I'm not drinking wine. Maybe if I'm at the pool, I got a glass of rosé. I don't know. But for the most part, it does depend. The great Ryan Fitzpatrick once said on the Yahoo Fantasy Forecast, it's all about regional and seasonal. And that certainly applies to drinking. Last question we've got here from Nate. How did you start out in the football space, Twitter and other social medias, or did you work for a brand/company? Nate, appreciate you. Yeah, I just got started. I started my website, thebackyardbanter.com. Started putting content, made a Twitter, which it was Backyard Banter at the time, and now obviously that's not my Twitter handle anymore. So really, my advice to people who want to get started is start a website, start your own social media page, figure out what you like. Do you like posting short content on social media? Do you like doing 60-second videos on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok or YouTube Shorts, whatever? There's something for everybody out there, but you always start on your own. Don't just try to, number one, nobody's just going to hire you. Okay, like these great companies that are out there aren't just going to hire you out of nowhere. Have a proof of concept. That was what I thought to myself. Like, I'm not going to get a job at, Football Guys or one of these places that I worked, that I really wanted to latch onto. I knew I was going to have a proof of concept. So I started Backyard Banter. I started my Twitter, tried to interact with people on football Twitter and fantasy Twitter back in the day. And that was really how I got started. And luckily I got in at a good time back in like 2013, 2014. So, and obviously to me, starting Reception Perception on that same time was the thing that made me stand out. And I fully believe that is why I'm here having this conversation with you all right now. So another great edition of the Reception Perception mailbag, ton of good questions. If you like this video, if you like the content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below for what you want to see in the next RP mailbag. Maybe some players you want to see charted for receptionperception.com. Go to subscribe to the site. Check out the in-season rookie report and Reception Perception per show. Yeah, boy, I said that one a lot of times. Let me say that one more time. And Reception Perception, the show with James Coe, the podcast. That's where you can check out all of our episodes there. So a lot of stuff for you to check out. It should be all linked in the description below. Until next time, I'll see you.